Tricia, I wanted to believe in us. I wanted to believe that you loved me for me, but you have shown me who you truly are.
Young was a man of humble beginning, born into a modest family in a small town in Nigeria. His father was a teacher and mother sold vegetables in the local market. From an early age, Young was fascinated by cars. He would spend hours watching mechanics work on vehicles in his neighborhood, learning the in and out of engine and how cars functioned. This passion eventually led him to study mechanic engineering at the university, and upon graduation, he wasted no time in starting his own car dealership business. It wasn't an easy road in the beginning. There were days when he didn't sell a single car, but Young perseverance paid off. Over the years, his business grew from a small lot with just a few second-hand cars to a thriving dealership that specialized in high-end luxury vehicles. Young was now wealthy beyond what his younger self could have ever imagined. He owned a beautiful home in the city, traveled the world, and had friends in high places. But despite all this, something was missing. While many of his peers had settled down with families, Young remained single, unsure if the woman he met loved him for who he was or for what he had. He had become even more cautious. He had seen friends fall into relationships that were more about money and status than love. The thought of marrying someone who was only interested in his wealth terrified him. He wanted someone who would love him for his character, for his dreams, and for the man he truly was, not just a successful businessman who could provide a life of luxury. It was at his close friend Justice's wedding that Young first met Trisha. The wedding was a grand affair held at one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. Young, always the quiet observer at events like this, had just arrived at the reception when his eyes fell on Trisha. She was sitting with a group of ladies, laughing and sipping champagne. Her beauty was undeniable, her long dark hair cascading down her back, her skin glowing under the soft light. She wore a fitted dress that accentuated her figure, and her confidence was evident in the way she carried herself. For a moment, Young found himself unable to look away. There was something about her, something captivating. He watched as she moved through the room, charming everyone she spoke to. She seemed to know exactly how to engage people, drawing them in with her laughter and effortless charm. Eventually, their eyes crossed. Young had been sitting by the bar when Trisha approached to order a drink. She smiled at him, her eyes sparkling with interest. "You must be Young," she said, her voice smooth and melodic. "Justice had told me all about you. The famous car dealer, right?" Young smiled politely. "I guess that's me. And you are?" "Trisha," she replied, offering her hand. "I am a friend of Justice's wife." They exchanged pleasantries, and before long, they were deep in conversation. Trisha was engaging and seemed genuinely interested in what Young had to say. She asked him about his business, his travels, and his thoughts on life in general. Young, who was often wary of women who seemed too eager, found himself relaxing in her presence. As the wedding went on, they danced, laughed, and shared stories. Trisha was everything a man like Young could want. She's beautiful, smart, and seemingly down to earth. By the time the wedding came to an end, Young felt a connection with her that he hadn't felt with anyone in a long time. Before they parted ways, Young asked for her number. "I would like to see you again," he said. Trisha smiled. "I would like that too." Over the few weeks, Young and Trisha's relationship blossomed. They went on several dates, dinners at upscale restaurants, trips to art galleries, and long walks in the city's beautiful parks. Young found himself drawn to her more with each passing day. Trisha, for her part, played her role perfectly. She was attentive, affectionate, and seemed genuinely interested in Young's life. She asked about his childhood, his family, and his dream for the future. She even accompanied him to a charity event where he donated to an orphanage, praising him for his generosity and compassion. Young was strongly attracted to her. He had finally found someone who seemed to love him for who he was, not just for what he had. He began to think about future, about marriage, a family, and building a life with Trisha. He imagined her by his side, supporting him as he continued to grow his business and give back to the community. But there was something Young didn't know, something that Trisha kept hiding beneath her smile and sweet words. As their relationship continued, Young couldn't help but notice how eager Trisha was to enjoy the finer things in life. Though she still seemed to care for him, her love for luxury was becoming more apparent. She often suggested trips to expensive fashion outlets, high-end restaurants, and five-star hotels. Initially, Young didn't mind. After all, he could afford it, and seeing her happy brought him joy. But the frequency of her requests began to raise some doubts in his mind. Was she truly in love with him, or was she more interested in his wealth? The turning point came when Trisha asked for financial assistance to help her brother start a business. She explained how her family had always struggled and her brother had a brilliant idea for a venture that needed funding to get off the ground. Her story seemed plausible, but something inside Young made him pause. However, he pushed the thought aside. He trusted Trisha, and helping her family felt like the right thing to do. Without hesitation, he transferred 5 million naira into her account. Trisha was so happy, showering him with gratitude and affection, assuring him that her brother's business would flourish and made everyone proud. But as days passed, Young doubts began to grow. Trisha became more distant, her visits became less frequent, and her once passionate behavior seemed to fade. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Young had always believed in the saying, if you want to know the true character of someone, test them. His friends had told him many stories of deceitful women who had entered relationship with wealthy men only to leave once the money dried up. He had always been careful but had never gone so far as to put someone he cared about to the test. This time, he decided to take action. Young planned an elaborate trick. He would pretend to be seriously injured and see how Tricia reacted. Would she stay by his side, loving him despite his condition, or would she abandon him once she realized he was no longer the wealthy, powerful man she had known? He staged a minor car accident, nothing serious, but enough to require bandage and a wheelchair. When Trisha arrived at his house, she was greeted by sight of him sitting by the window, blindfolded and with his leg bound as if completely incapacitated. Trisha, he said weakly, I have had an accident. The doctor say I might never see or walk again. Her eyes widened, and for a moment Young saw genuine concern flash across her face. But that concern quickly turned to something else. Confusion, uncertainty, perhaps even fear. What do you mean? Trisha asked. Young explained that his injury were severe and that he might be in this condition for a long time, possibly for life. He told her how the business would suffer, how he might not be able to continue his work, and how things would be different from now on. Trisha's face changed. She tried to hide her disappointment, but it was clear that she was processing this new reality, where Young was no longer the wealthy, independent man he had been before. I don't know what to say, she murmured, standing up and pacing the room. This is so sudden. For the next few days, Trisha's visits became less frequent and her excuses more flimsy. First, she claimed she needed to take care of family matters. Then she stopped picking up his calls altogether. Young was disappointed. The woman he thought he loved was slipping away. And the truth he feared was revealing itself. It wasn't long before Young discovered the full extent of Trisha's betrayal. One evening, after she hadn't visited for several days, Young called a mutual friend who had seen her out with another man, a man named Mike. Mike was a smooth-talking businessman who had promised Trisha the world, including a lavish life abroad. Feeling a wave of sadness and anger, Young decided to investigate further. He found out that Mike wasn't just any man. He was a close friend. Mike had been playing along, pretending to be interested in Trisha while secretly testing her loyalty with Young's knowledge. They had devised a plan together, and now with the evidence they needed, it was time to confront her. The final blow came when Young discovered that Trisha had taken another 5 million naira from him under the guise of helping her brother again. In reality, she had given the money to Mike, believing that they would soon be leaving the country together. But Mike, as planned, had no intention of following through. Feeling betrayed and humiliated, Trisha went to confront Mike. She had believed his lies, fallen for his charm, and even betrayed a man who had done nothing. When she arrived Mike's home, the truth hit her like a wave. "I never cared for you," Mike said. "It was all a game, Trisha. You thought you could deceive Young. He's my best friend. We were testing you from the start." Trisha's world crumbled. Everything she thought she had built, the luxury, the promises, the future she had envisioned was gone. Desperate, she returned to Young, tears in her eyes, begging for forgiveness, but it was too late. Young, though heartbroken, remained calm. "Trisha, I wanted to believe in us. I wanted to believe that you loved me for me, but you have shown me who you truly are." Trisha fell to her knees, pleading for second chance, but the damage was done. "I am sorry, Trisha," Young said, "but not all that glitters is gold. You will have to live with the choices you have made." And with that, Young walked away, leaving